Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating, air, restoration, and flood services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Trebas Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. By viewers like you. Thank you.
Good evening, and thank you for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Anxiety is growing among San Diego's Somali community after the White House announced the end of temporary protected status for hundreds of Somalis living in the U.S. KPBS reporter John Carroll talked to a member of the local Somali community today. He has more from the newsroom.
The administration's revocation of TPS, temporary protected status for Somalis living in the country right now, only affects about 700 people, so we're talking about a relatively small number of people here in San Diego. Nevertheless, it's sending shockwaves through the local Somali community, estimated to be the second largest one behind Minnesota. Most of the local Somali community lives in City Heights, and that's where PANA, the Partnership for the Advancement of New Americans, is located. I spoke with an employee there about the effect Tuesday's order is having on Somalis here. Ramo Abdi is the group's director of organizing. She says the administration's action is racist, unfair, and hurtful to all Somalis here and across the country.
Most of these people came from war zone, like escaping prosecution and came to United States for safety reasons, right? For them getting their status be revoked and going back to Somalia is going to be dangerous for them.
Tahzeen Nizam is the executive director of CARE, the Council on American Islamic Relations San Diego chapter. She says the TPS revocation for Somalis is just the latest move by the administration that is based in bigotry and politics as opposed to the law. She says the Minnesota chapter of CARE has filed a lawsuit against the action.
We are just appalled by these enforcement, because this is about taking away legal measures for anybody to immigrate legally, right? We talk about, hey, why don't a lot of our friends say, why don't they come in legally? Well, they're trying to do a legal measure of immigrating, and you're taking that away from it.
Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem says conditions in Somalia have improved to the point where it's not as dangerous as it once was. But the State Department still has the country listed as level 4, do not travel. That is the highest level of travel warning. The administration has already revoked TPS status for Venezuelans and Haitians. The Somali revocation takes effect on March 17th, but lawsuits are expected, which would delay its implementation. In the newsroom, John Carroll, KPBS News.
The U.S. is suspending immigrant visa processing from 75 countries for an indefinite amount of time. The affected nations include Brazil, Colombia, Egypt, Haiti, Somalia, and Russia. It applies to visas required to work in the U.S. Student and tourist visas will not be impacted. The new suspension starts a week from today.
The theme of cool nights and warm days continues here. We have dry weather, high pressure with us. We're going to get down to around 51 in Ramona, 47 in San Diego. Up in Oceanside, some of you may briefly dip down into the upper 30s, at least a little bit inland from the coast. But overall, this week, much more tranquil than recent weeks, especially over the holidays when we were getting pestered by rain and even flooding. A warming trend for many of us. Dry weather continuing and some patchy fog near the coast. Details ahead.
The Carlsbad City Council last night approved the city's emergency proclamation over erosion concerns on an ocean bluff. KPBS North County reporter Alexander Wynn says it's to expedite repairs to the storm drain that was damaged by the recent rains.
This stretch of bluffs overlooking South Carlsbad State Beach is popular with walkers, joggers, and bikers.
I do walk this bluff pretty often, like almost every day.
Anjali Heppel says she's not surprised by the erosion, especially after the recent storms.
This whole coastline has been kind of wrecked recently.
That's why the city declared an emergency. It came after the governor's own declaration because of storm damage here and elsewhere in the state. The city says a portion of the bluff near Carlsbad Boulevard and Solomar Drive was restricted because of erosion. The recent rains damaged the integrity of the storm drain pipe here. That is concerning to surfer Michael Andrews.
Definitely scary. This is a local surf spot, and I'm always nervous about the bluffs eroding more and more. As you can see, some of the paths down the side of the bluffs are not too enforced.
In a statement, Carlsbad City Manager Jeff Patno says the safety of our residents and visitors is our top priority. Proclaiming a local emergency allows us to act quickly, coordinate resources, and reduce potential risks. The city has already started the repairs.
Work is expected to take a couple of weeks. In the meantime, the city has created this temporary walkway to keep the public safe.
But Hebel isn't too convinced. She's still concerned about the integrity of the bluff.
No, it's definitely concerning because, like, if you're walking that path and it just, like, crumbles underneath you, then, like, what then, for real? Like, I don't know. It's such a busy walkway. You see, like, a bunch of people, like, always walking this path. Like, if something were to happen, that would be really tragic.
While the work is underway, the city says people should be cautious in the area. In Carlsbad, Alexander Nguyen, KPBS News.
Nathan Fletcher is dipping his toes back in the political world, this time as a lobbyist. KPBS investigative reporter Scott Rodd reports the former chairman of the San Diego County Board of Supervisors is representing a veterans advocacy group.
Fletcher left public office in 2023 after former Metropolitan Transit System employee Crescia Figueroa filed a sexual misconduct lawsuit against him. He also terminated his run for state senate. Fletcher denied the allegations. A judge dismissed the case last August and reprimanded Figueroa for deleting messages and delaying production of evidence. Weeks later, Fletcher held a press conference.
While I have no desire at all to return to public office, I will look back on the 8 years I spent in San Diego in public office with a measure of pride.
But he wasn't ready to leave politics completely. He registered last summer as a lobbyist for the nonprofit Veterans Exploring Treatment Solutions. The Texas-based organization advocates for psychedelic-assisted mental health therapies for veterans. Fletcher is a combat veteran and has acknowledged his personal struggles with post-traumatic stress disorder. At last year's press conference, he discussed his experience with psychedelic-assisted therapy.
I did a Ibogaine retreat in Mexico, which was truly transformative. Was just life-changing in so many ways.
Longtime Sacramento lobbyist Chris McKaylee says Fletcher's background will be an asset for veterans exploring treatment solutions.
Having a former service member, a veteran himself, advocating for it, I think brings a lot of credibility. Sometimes the messenger is as important or perhaps even more important sometimes than the message that is being delivered.
Fletcher did not respond to a request for comment. He worked on a bill signed into law last year that aims to accelerate research into psychedelic therapies. Scott Rodd, KPBS News.
Today, a federal 3-judge panel voted to allow California to use their new U.S. House map in the upcoming 2026 midterms. It was approved by voters in a special election last November. This latest 2-1 ruling currently favors Democrats, hoping to flip up to 5 seats in the House. Republicans are now anticipated to appeal this decision to the U.S. Supreme Court. The Federal Reserve has extensive power over the direction of the U.S. economy, and that is why the central bank has remained insulated from politics for decades. But the latest in the back and forth between President Trump and Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell could leave American households caught in the middle. Karen Kaifa has a look at why the Fed matters to your money.
We have a bad Fed chairman.
President Donald Trump at odds for months with Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell, who revealed on Sunday he's under criminal investigation by Trump's Justice Department.
The threat of criminal charges is a consequence of the Federal Reserve setting interest rates based on our best assessment of what will serve the public, rather than following the preferences of the president.
Trump has denied involvement in the Powell probe, but for decades, Federal Reserve chairs have insulated the central bank from politics, and economists broadly agree that's a healthy necessity.
It's really important to say these people are not political. They really want to act in the best interest of the economy.
Because Fed policy decisions trickle down to every American household, from the price of groceries to mortgage rates.
Through monetary policy or influencing rates across the economy, the Fed helps keep inflation under control and the labor market healthy. The way that people feel this in their household is generally in the interest rates they pay on credit and loans.
And NerdWallet senior economist Elizabeth Renter says short-term economic gains from cutting rates can reverse in the long run.
More hiring, higher economic growth, and these things are especially attractive during an election year. But over time, these lower rates can overheat the economy, leading to that higher and higher inflation.
In the current climate, some Fed observers believe the central bank could pause on rate cuts to avoid the perception of political influence. In Washington, I'm Karen Kafa.
A high-stakes meeting today at the White House as tensions rise over control over Greenland. The foreign ministers of Greenland and Denmark meeting face-to-face with the Trump administration. Brian Abel has the latest from Washington.
This 90-minute meeting at the White House happening as Denmark ramps up its military presence around Greenland and as President Trump ramps up his rhetoric around taking control of the country. Vice President J.D. Vance and Secretary of State Marco Rubio playing host to both the Danish foreign minister and Greenland's foreign minister. Their delegation arriving at the West Wing of the White House late Wednesday morning, just hours after President Trump set the tone for the high-stakes meeting with a social media post. Trump continuing his aggressive rhetoric, saying NATO should be leading the way for the U.S. to acquire Greenland because if we don't, Russia or China will, arguing the U.S. needs a territory for national security purposes. Trump adding, NATO becomes far more formidable and effective with Greenland in the hands of the United States. Anything less than that is unacceptable. Trump hasn't ruled out military action to gain control of Greenland, a self-governing territory of Denmark, though Rubio has said Trump wants to buy, not take over the country with force. However, Denmark has said Greenland is not for sale. The Danish foreign minister doubling down on that point after today's meeting.
Ideas that would not respect territorial integrity of the Kingdom of Denmark and the right of self-determination of the Greenlandic people are, of course, totally unacceptable. And we therefore still have a fundamental disagreement, but we also agree to disagree.
What should be kept in perspective is this 1951 agreement between the U.S. and Denmark that allows for President Trump to have as many U.S. military bases in Greenland as he wants. That agreement still stands, along with an offer for the U.S. to invest as much as they want into mining mineral resources on the island. All of this begging the question, what more is there to gain by the U.S. taking control of Greenland? In Washington, Brian Abel reporting.
I'm Jeff Bennett. Tonight on the NewsHour, President Trump appears to tamp down military threats against Iran. That's at 7 after Evening Edition on KPBS.
Leaders of the Manzanita Band of the Kumeyaay Nation say they were not properly consulted on a massive solar farm currently under construction in Jacumba. KPBS reporter Elaine Alfaro says this is the latest controversy surrounding the more than 600-acre project.
Jacumba is like this unique area where we come and gather, we trade, we have our ceremonies and dances, and so that's why it's important for us to protect this area. Not only that, though, but the bones of our ancestors are here, and that's really what we fight for.
Johnny Eagle Spirit Elliott is a Manzanita Executive Committee member. He remembers coming to Jacumba as a kid, learning from his family about the land and its history. But now, the land is shifting. Elliott and other tribal leaders say the county violated state law by not properly consulting with them on the solar project, even though they made several requests to be involved. Here's Historical Preservation Officer Veronica Santos.
In the tribe's opinion, you did not follow what you should have, the law, by consulting with all the tribes that were in the original documents.
County officials say they did reach out in 2019, but the tribe did not respond by their deadline, and the county says staff continued to contact leaders throughout the years-long approval process. Ultimately, the county gave the developer approval to consult with a Kumeyaay Native American monitoring company. Now, county staff member Mark Slovic says they're working with the developer to find a way to allow monitoring by Manzanita leaders.
And what we're trying to do, I think, is trying to work out a way to get Manzanita brought in, even though it's not part of the conditions of the permit.
Elaine Alfaro, KPBS News.
If you want to or you're trying to get fit this year, then you are not alone. KPBS web producer Riley Arthur went to the South Bay YMCA to uncover why fitness is top of mind for many and why health goals so often fall short.
Want to get fit this year? You aren't alone. The majority of New Year's resolutions, over 79%, according to the Pew Research Foundation, are health-related. Weight loss tops the list. Big health goals equals big spending. A nationwide survey by the Health and Fitness Association estimates that Americans will spend roughly $60 billion in 2026 in pursuit of their health and fitness goals. Even with that level of investment, many people still struggle to follow through. For many, the first step of their health journey will be to join a gym. It's so common, there's even a term for it, the January gym phenomenon.
So the January gym phenomenon is an activity that takes place where people line up out the doors to join gyms. Whether it's a matter of them feeling guilty about the holidays, having challenging times with their families at or around meal times, or just being inactive, people feel like this is my time, this is my year, it's gonna be me, and now's the time.
Unfortunately, gyms see a noticeable dip in February and a drop in attendance beginning in March.
They'll start out quick, but after they don't see any immediate results, they said, this isn't worth it, and they drop off.
However, Americans overall are slimming down. Gallup reports that the U.S. obesity rates peaked at nearly 40% in 2022 and have dropped to 37% in 2025. That drop represents an estimated 7.6 million fewer adults classified as obese compared with 3 years ago. The increase in injectables for adults who report using medicines like Ozempic and Mounjaro for weight loss has increased to 12.4%. The majority of adults are losing weight in other ways.
Weight loss and fitness is popular for New Year resolutions because it's usually the thing that we all need to improve. Whatever age you are, demographic, we all want to live a longer, healthier life. So that's at the top of our list.
Experts recommend making specific goals for best results.
Let's say your goal is to be fit or even run a marathon, but right now you don't even run a mile regularly. You need to start small, so start with building up your walking, right? Or if you want to run, you want to run 1 mile or run 10 minutes, something very small, and do that a few times a week. And make that be your goal for several weeks. Start there.
You don't have to go to the gym to work out. Exercising at home or outdoors can be just as effective, but for beginners or the elderly, fitness instructors can provide guidance on how to safely use equipment and avoid injury. As an added bonus, the atmosphere of a gym can also provide community and added accountability.
But when you have a group or a community, you have people that you can't wait to see, people you want to check in with, people you want to show up for, people who you want to hold accountable and help holding you accountable.
In an increasingly isolated society, those benefits go beyond fitness. They are good for mental health.
Here at the Y, outside of our day-to-day group exercise classes, outside of our fitness centers, we have lots of spaces where people just can sit, connect, engage, grab a cup of coffee. So they're coming to the Y to exercise, but like outside of class times too, they're having great opportunities to connect, engage, reduce that isolation, and help support their mental health.
Whether your health goal is fitness, mental health, flexibility, mobility, or weight loss, starting small with a specific goal can get your body moving and will offer the biggest rewards.
There are so many benefits that are a result of fitness or are unrelated to the number on the scale.
Riley Arthur, KPBS News.
Well, the Winter Olympics are only a few weeks away, but Los Angeles is already looking ahead to the 2028 Summer Games. Registration to enter the lottery to buy tickets opened online today. Actual tickets do not go on sale until this spring, though. Organizers say around 2.5 million tickets will be available, and they're striving to make it an affordable experience.
We've got 1 million tickets at $28. Every single event, every session, which means even gold medal men's basketball has a ticket for $28, and a third of our tickets are under $100, and 2/3 of our tickets are less than it costs to go to an NFL game in Los Angeles.
Residents of Los Angeles, Orange, Riverside, and Ventura counties will have early access to buy tickets before it opens up to the rest of the world.
High pressure is here and has been with us for several days. We're going to continue through the weekend with generally pleasant, nice weather. A warm stretch continues here across the board. We have some coastal clouds and fog at late at night and into the early morning hours, but most afternoons very bright, pleasant, and if you head inland, it's going to be a nice bright morning as well through Thursday and again on Friday as well. There is a disturbance that is in view next week, but it really looks like it's going to stay well to the south into Mexico, bypassing us, so the dry theme continues. Tonight, we're going to get down to 47. Clear skies for most of us. There may be a few patchy clouds offshore. And overall, with strong high pressure building across the west, we're dealing with a warming trend. It's been a warm stretch here. We have some patchy fog near the coast, the marine layer at times at night into the early hours of the morning. It's not too widespread. And also, we're dealing with some gusty offshore breezes here. Not a terribly strong wind event, but it's a little bit breezy. Also some patchy fog up into the Sacramento Valley way to our north. We're going to stay warm and dry Thursday. Not a whole lot of disruptive weather to report. We like that. And overall, highs back up to 84 in El Cajon, 83 Escondido. Will be around 77 from Oceanside down to San Diego and Chula Vista as well. A little warm into the desert, 78 in Borrego Springs, and up into the mountains, Mount Laguna, 54. The status quo this week. Not much day-to-day change here. You can see the plains are dealing with some wind, but we have dry weather for us. The cold air bottled up east to the Rockies. Dry, balmy weather for us in the southwest on Saturday. It's a pleasant start to the weekend. So coastal areas here will stay consistently in the mid-70s. Borderline upper 70s. Thursday may be our warmest day among the next 5. Temperatures hedging downward slightly, but still, it'll be very nice into Monday. Inland areas, temps in the low to mid 80s through the next several days. Warm out there. Monday, limited cooling. We'll have cool nights as well. In the mountains we go, and here we're consistently in the 50s for highs, lows into the 30s, generally above freezing in most areas, but there is some variety there with varying elevation. And in the deserts, we're going to be dealing with warm days, cool nights, lots of sunshine out there right into early next week. Maybe a few extra clouds on Monday as that disturbance from the Pacific gets a little closer to the area. But again, the precipitation tied to that should stay to our south into Mexico. I'm AccuWeather meteorologist Jeff Cornish for KPBS News.
3 years after landslides and a roadway collapse closed Northern California's Highway 1, the scenic route is finally back open. Traffic had been stopped along a 90-mile section of the road between Carmel and Cambria, cutting off access to Big Sur. Today's reopening comes 3 months ahead of schedule. Big Sur business owners say that gives travelers plenty of time to plan their spring and summer road trips. Did you know that there's a volcano in Carlsbad? Well, what's left of a volcano at least. As Ken Kramer shows us, you have to go way back in time to get the whole story about San Diego.
I think it is a nice day in Carlsbad for a walk. Super easy to get to off of Tamarack Avenue. The trail crosses a small dam that impounds rainwater down there, and it is, you see, the way to get to the volcano.
And you say, what? There are no active volcanoes in San Diego County today, and you'd be right. See, this was a very, very long time ago, and if you were right here...
Really? There's the sign, and here's the volcano. Mount Calavera means skull in Spanish, and yes, it really is what's left of a little volcano not far from the residential streets of Carlsbad today. It was back in its day, in a very tiny way, very spectacular, as a geologist could tell us, and luckily we have one.
Good to see you, Ken. Come on in.
Dr. Pat Abbott, Professor Emeritus, Earth and Environmental Sciences at San Diego State. Okay, first thing he says, we shouldn't think of it as like a Hawaii volcano with lava spewing. No, this was more like a Mount St. Helens blowing up rock and gas, but on a much, much, much smaller scale.
It's the kind of thing that people living in the neighborhood would have been able to move away from, watch it for a few years, and it would have quit. It would not have killed or harmed anybody.
That's if there was anyone around to see it, which there wasn't.
It's most definitely prehistoric. Nobody was around when that volcano was erupting.
And when was that? Well, maybe 20 or 25 or or 30 or 35 million years ago or so.
I can say, as a geologist looking at it in the field, where the sandstones nearby that are like 40 million years old, I can show that they are baked or burnt. So the magma shows it's younger than 40 million years, but I can't be more specific than that.
Okay, so it's very old. And a couple of things. You think of a volcano as being cone-shaped, right? And back then this was. But
it's also loose material, so that erodes easily. And what's happened there in Carlsbad is the side has eroded away here. We now see inside the throat of it.
And walk right into that throat, right into the middle of the volcano, and look up, look around.
And in the throat of it, you see these hexagonal columns. They almost look like Greek architecture. It's the kind of a thing that when the magma was cooling in the throat of the volcano, it shrinks and cools into hexagonal-shaped vertical columns.
See them? Yes, there are big geological forces at work here, but Dr. Pat Abbott says...
But this is just a tiny little thing. A little thing where below the surface a bit of magma had accumulated, some gas burst through the surface, blowing stuff into the air for a while. The gas is expended, a little bit of lava comes out. It took place at maxima for a few years, and it's a one and done. It is now extinct. It will never erupt again.
Which is good news for Carlsbad and their volcano known as Cerro de Calavera, Skull Hill, which holds the distinction of being, in fact, one of the smallest volcanoes in North America in the Lake Calavera Preserve in the city of Carlsbad. An easy walk on a nice day to see some ancient history about San Diego.
Oh, and Ken Kramer has a half hour of stories every week about San Diego, and you can see them Thursday nights at 8 o'clock right here on KPBS. Here's a look at what we're working on for tomorrow in the KPBS newsroom. What rights do U.S. citizens and non-U.S. citizens have when they encounter law enforcement? NPR's Morning Edition is speaking with Georgetown University law professor. And KPBS Midday Edition is highlighting all the best arts and culture events around town for the weekend preview. And you can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org. Thank you for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Have a great evening.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating, air, restoration, and flood services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit BillHowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.